you working on for design?
Say again?
Who are you working with?
Susie Holmes for costume,
okay.
and Faye Patterson for lighting.
Okay.
So we have, Susie and I have finding our way with the costume designs. I think initially her impression of my vocabulary was not necessarily at odds with what I was looking for. It was more so that I had a very strong image in my head about what kind of environment I wanted. And often I find it interesting if you place something that exists in a different context, and then that gives what you're seeing a context. So we've been sort of playing with ideas. Once the vocabulary and once the movement started to exist, we were starting to draw from that and go, okay, what's really speaking? What do we want these people to look like? Do we want them to be human? Do we want them to be dancing? You know, all those questions. And it was very much a collaboration between us both as well. But they're going to be human beings, most definitely. The way I see the piece is more my original idea. As I say, it's still very much in the process, so what eventuates may be something different. But what I see in my head is like this little micro community of human society in a way. We've got the wonderful space, the Bonnybird Theatre, and I have been very lucky to have sort of 4 hours of space time to work there and to see kind of what it's going to be like, which is such a rare opportunity. So it was wonderful to have that, so I can have this picture in my head about what it will eventuate. And I like to imagine that this little world that we as an audience will be able to view is like the human race, and exhibited as a zoo enclosure. And there's something about taking elements of human nature, or elements of how we relate to each other, that is symbolic or that is commonplace, that we're almost unaware of, that happens because of the way society structures us within it. So I kind of have this imaginary sort of zoo enclosure in my head in which you see this kind of, you see elements of human society and life on display.
Have you decided upon a title yet?
I have. Very
I can share.
Yes. No, the piece is called Blind Action.
Okay.
For this work, I have. It's been a very interesting process for me. It's the first time I've made a work where the actual creative process has produced the work. And I say that by meaning as I had very, very strong ideas to start off with, but primarily as a point of departure. So where it would go was entirely dependent on my relationship with the dancers, what the dancers could bring to the table, the process itself. And for me, the title is twofold. So on one hand, it's really questions how we are in current society. Are we blind to the ways we live our lives and interact with people? Do we act on impulse? Do we act blindly, or do we have a choice? And it's about those things. It's about relationships. It's about structure. It's about conformity. It's about stereotype. It's about the things that we. It's about the things that we don't consider on a daily basis, which maybe we should. In terms of how we relate. So there's idea. It develops into the idea of rebellion. It touches on sort of political structure without being political, but it's society, a greater society, and how we interact with each other. I do find that interesting, how we can go by our day and do things and without even consider why we do them. Say things without thinking, make assumptions about people, put them into boxes, put ourselves into boxes. Well, I can't do that because this, etc., etc. But these were very much points of departure. So these were ideas that I thought, I find this interesting. How am I going to develop tasks? What kind of vocabulary is going to come out of that? What kind of relationships are going to be built out of that? And you, sorry.
No, it's fine. Carry on.
And secondly, you know, this process was very much, as I said before, you know, coming out of the studio, it was coming out of the relationship. So to a certain extent, I was blindly going forward in this process, not knowing really where it was going to go. I had the music's very strong and it's very directive. It's in 5 movements and they have very clear structures and very clear movements, but I didn't want it to inform it from the beginning. I wanted the ideas for each section to come out of the process. I didn't want to go in with this, this is going to be this, and I'm going to have this here and this here, and have it too sort of planned, because the music for me is, whilst it's a wonderful score, I get very excited. It's very exciting. It has an energy to it. It's very powerful. I wanted to be I was very wary about how that would inform the work. So I needed the work to exist and the music to inform the work and the environment. From the perspective of, basically I didn't want to create a piece of great contemporary dance to wild percussion music, you know, and that be it. You know, I think the music with the live percussion, it draws on not just classical percussion or contemporary classical percussion rhythms, but it also draws on Pacific Island percussion rhythms. So there is a sense of there is a cultural aspect to it, and that for me that's going into sort of semi-dangerous territory. I didn't want it to, you know, to get to. Whilst the rhythms are very exciting, are very sort of tribal and very base level, there's an energy to that which I wanted to tap into without saying anything about what those mean, or what those, you know, those references that are, you know, that are obvious to people when they hear certain rhythms like that. So it was important for me to just play it and be wary about what that was going to say, and just, you know, use the energy of the score without commenting on the sound or the texture of it.
And is there anything that you'll take out of this experience when you go to your next project?
A lot, yes, I'll take a lot out of it. I think because this process was particularly, how do I say it? My own process, my own decision making was blind. I mean, I don't want to appear to sound like I had no idea what I was doing. I did it. It wasn't like that at all. But I think I was open enough in this experience to let the process take me on a journey, you know. And there was, I questioned myself a lot and questioned my decisions a lot in this. And it's about, for me, it's about stepping away early enough, stepping away from the detail, stepping away from the vocabulary, you know, that will continue to evolve as we work. But it's about stepping away at the right time to be able to start seeing the work as a work, and to be able to start crafting and seeing, and, you know, taking the gems when they arrive. And because also they're such a creative bunch, I was able to rely on their own methods to create material, and, you know, whilst I crafted it and gave them direction, and, you know, they have produced a lot for this work. And it's also about being able to observe them, and it's more of an act of direction than actual creation itself. You know, it was wonderful. I would be presented with material that made me go, wow, I'd never thought that would go there, but that's really interesting. Okay, I have to have some time away from it to actually put it into perspective and go, can I use this? Because I really like it, but where's it going to fit? Mm-hmm. So it's about finding the right pieces of the jigsaw puzzle to put together. So I think taking away, if I take anything away from this process, it's the development of the skill to be able to, you know, glean the elements, the right elements that are going to say the most for the you know, greater conceptual idea.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks
Thank
very
you
much.